Hi, everyone. This is Megan.
And this is Steven.
And this is the Synchrony podcast where we talk about transforming apostolic dating culture and ending loneliness in the church.
We have a little bit different of a backdrop right now.
Yeah, we'll have maybe our pretty orange backdrop up again soon, but we're experimenting with different places in our house that we can put our...
Oh, I'm not moving this again.
Oh,
This is a final resting
we are
spot.
no longer experimenting. Yes, you mounted things into our ceiling.
Yes.
We're serious about this.
Yep.
Yeah. We're willing to give up some resale value for...
Oh, no. Putty can cover a lot of sins.
Okay. Well, we now have things bolted into our ceiling. So I guess this is a legit studio
That's right.
/ office.
Yeah.
/
You know what? We can keep the animals out of here.
Yeah, that's true.
We can half set up our setup.
Yeah, and just kind of keep it all the time.
That's right.
It's nice. We are recording this a little bit earlier than we usually record in the week because there's another hurricane.
Yep. It's literally hitting us right now.
Yeah, well, it's not hitting us, thankfully.
We're getting hit by it, but we're on the outskirts of it.
Yeah, we're not in the direct cone. If you don't live in Florida and you don't know how hurricanes work, you might think that the entire state of Florida is underwater right now based on just what you're seeing on the news about Hurricane Milton. But there are some parts of the state that are really getting hammered. We are on the northern side of the hurricane, so we'll experience the outer bands and a lot of rain and some wind potential. But what we're experiencing is probably more the equivalent of a tropical storm compared to what our loved ones on the Gulf Coast are getting hit with right now. So we're thinking of them. Hopefully everyone is safe. And
Thank you for all the concerned messages and wishes. We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We covet your prayers really for the people that are in South Florida. On both coasts, actually, we saw some hurricanes today. Hurricanes, sorry. We saw some tornado videos today right around where we used to live in Palm Beach County. So our thoughts are just with those folks. Definitely, we'll be just in prayer waiting for those reports to come in, but we're believing that everyone is safe. Our churches are safe, and we're just going to believe that the hand of God is protecting us as we go through this.
Yep.
Just fall in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the sunshine state until it's not. Then it's the death cloud state. Anyway.
I saw a funny meme today of like category 1, category 2. People are like out in their yards barbecuing. Category 3, it was like someone with like a concerned look on their face. And like this is like describing Floridians. And then in category 4 and 5, people are like, see ya.
Yeah. Yeah, when the Floridians do start panicking and leaving, it's serious. And I know there are a lot of evacuations for this one, as there should be. So hopefully everyone who was evacuating made it to where they needed to go before the weather started to hit.
Yeah.
So anyway, we won't harp too much on that, but hopefully we get through this whole recording before our internet goes out.
Yeah.
We'll see. Meanwhile, on a happier note, what are we drinking, babe?
Cafe 117. Try not to break the glasses. We only have one set.
Yeah. Cheers to our friends at Cafe 117. They are an apostolic-owned coffee company that produces amazing single-origin coffees and also fantastic blends, including the one that we drink all the time. That is literally keeping us going these days. And you can order coffee from them. They will ship it directly to you. You can get it on subscription. It's roasted to order, so it's super fresh when it reaches you. And they put a big portion of their proceeds toward apostolic aid organizations like Compassion Services International, and are, using those funds to help touch so many lives. So I know we are getting into the Thanksgiving season, and after that is going to be the holiday season. Keep Cafe 117 in mind. It's a great way to do well by doing good and having some cozy coffee to get you through the chilly season. And we're grateful to them for partnering with us.
That's right.
Cool.
You need to speak up.
I'm sorry. I am both tired and in a much smaller room, and it's making me... Also, there's these giant fish on the wall in here. We have...
Yes.
We have 3 large mouth bass mounted on the wall in this room.
They've been not mounted for 8 years of our marriage, and I
Yeah.
finally got around to mounting them.
Yeah, they're your dad's fish, so they're very special and they are beautiful.
She says with hesitancy.
That one is looking at me right now.
Hey, that's the prize one.
Yeah, but its eye is following me like as I'm talking, and it's just got this gaping. It's a lot to take in as I'm trying to have this conversation. So I'll do my best to speak up.
Well, okay. Well, we do have another comment winner.
Yeah.
And this time it was a lot closer of a call between who was going to win. Up until like 12 hours ago, it was going to be 100% guarantee who was going to win. But now we have two people. And yeah, two comments.
So for context, if you don't know what we're doing, we're trying to increase our YouTube engagement because we get out to a different subset of people on YouTube. Frankly, we get a lot more guys watching our stuff on YouTube, which is great because our male demographics are where we really need the most outreach right now. So it's helpful for us if you're able to comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel and create engagement around those videos. And so we've been asking people to comment and like, and then we've been doing a drawing every week.
And whoever wins gets a $25 gift card.
Yep.
To Amazon, which is extremely useful.
Yeah. So
this time, or the last couple times I put it in like a comment like picker.
Mm-hmm.
This time, since we only have two, I figured the old-fashioned coin flip. That's going to be fun.
So we have a username that starts with an H and one that starts with an M. So we'll say H is heads and M is tails.
All right. Heads.
Heads. So that goes to Helene MSO32. Thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
For listening. We appreciate you. Yeah.
So congratulations, and we'll be reaching out to you probably via email of trying to send you that.
Yeah. Awesome.
So it's time to get into it, babe.
Sounds good. I'm really tired today. I'm struggling. Hold on. I need to drink some more of my coffee. 1 second.
No. Better hurry this up.
Okay.
Power just flickered. So
yeah, so we're going to have to move this along. So we're talking about breaking up.
Yes, we are.
Why?
With me?
No, you're stuck with me.
Oh, well, you already did that once anyways.
Yeah, we have 2 children now and a mortgage, so
yeah.
You're not going anywhere unless it's in a pine box. I hope nothing happens to you, because if so, I just incriminated myself.
Remember
anyway,
this.
Your life insurance isn't that good. So why are we talking about breaking up? So I realized when we were talking last week about like talking relationships, and we kind of wove our way into situationships and how to avoid them. We spent some time talking about how to know when to sort of move on from a relationship, but we didn't give really clear guidelines on how to do that. And I think it's important because I think people like hype up what a breakup conversation is in their head, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like, something that's happening early on when you're talking to someone, or something that maybe should have happened a long time ago, or is happening sort of farther into a relationship. I think the mechanics of it are the same, and it's not as complicated as we make it out to be.
Yes, because you should always break up over a text.
Yeah, no.
Just kidding. Don't do that.
Not ideal. So recapping really quickly, how do we know when it's time to end a relationship, whether it's an actual dating relationship where you've been official for a while, or a more short-term talking kind of connection?
My first instinct is when your values are not aligned. And that sounds very woo-woo.
Yeah.
But in the sense of like, there are certain values that you will have that in your heart and your mind are concrete, or a direction you want to go.
Yeah.
And if the person you are talking to or dating is not heading in that direction whatsoever, or is like contradictory to those values, I think that should be a pretty big red flag.
Yeah, and to put more kind of like concrete terms around this, when you're like, well, does this person align with my values or not? As you're gathering data or evidence about this person through your conversations, you should be asking yourself things like, if I were to start a life with this person, would it look like the life I believe God has for me?
Yeah.
Right? Would it look like the life that I believe I should be living? Right? What kind of person would I be if I were with this person for a long period of time? And, we can't predict the future, right? So this isn't us asking you to like look into a crystal ball, but you should be able to intuit fairly early on if someone's habits or behaviors are going to take you and your life in a direction that you don't want to go in a way that's really true to you, right?
Yeah.
So if you are talking to someone and they say, I have no desire to be a parent, to parent children, maybe I could be convinced one day, but it's really not something that I'm interested in right now, right? And you know that parenting and having children and raising children is a vital element of what you want in your future. That person doesn't align with your values.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't stay just because you're like, well, maybe I'll bring them around to the idea after a few years, right?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people end up staying longer than they should because they're afraid of losing their investment. And by investment, I don't mean like monetary necessarily. I mean time investment.
Time, I think there's also the scarcity mindset
Yeah,
thing.
well, I mean, that's a part of it. Like,
right. Like, I
I've
don't want to have
invested
to do
this much
this over
time into this
again.
person. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find someone else to invest into again.
Right.
So, and we've had conversations about that, but
yeah, and both of those things are bad reasons to stay in a relationship.
yeah,
Like,
for both parties.
Right. Because the investment that you'll have if you get married to someone and then end up divorcing them is much, much higher. That will be a much greater loss.
Yeah. And maybe even kids involved at that point.
Yeah, and that's tragic. I mean,
Yeah.
that's so hard. So we definitely want to, if there's going to be a cost in terms of losing, I'm using air quotes here because I don't think it's this black or white, losing your investment of time.
Sure.
Better to do that in the dating phase than in the marriage, right?
Yeah. And I do want to caveat when I say like losing in your investment in time, that sounds very cold, but I'm saying that from a sense of fear.
Yeah.
Like when you are thinking that, it's not just as simple as, oh, I don't want to lose my investment. It's more of like you are scared of all that time you have spent getting to know someone will be lost and feel like it's for nothing. Even though you've learned valuable lessons along the way, like it was going to be valuable in the end. I feel like that it comes from a place of fear.
Absolutely. And like speaking from a woman's perspective, if you're 35 and you're considering ending a dating relationship and you do want to have kids and you have that fertility question kind of breathing down the back of your neck, like,
sure,
that sense of lost time is really significant. And so we don't want to diminish that. I mean, that's a real fear that people have.
Yeah.
But I think, so, we gave the example of someone who is talking to someone who doesn't want to have children when they do. And that's a very black and white kind of thing. Oftentimes it's more like shades of gray where you're trying to figure out, well, could this be the right person for me? Maybe I could see it working. And my guidance there is that if you find yourself going, well, maybe this could work. Well, maybe that could work. Like, maybe that could work. But the idea of it working is not energizing to you or exciting to you. That's a signal that it might not be the right place.
Yeah.
Right. And when I say energizing and exciting, I'm not talking about like
butterflies.
Yeah. I'm saying like, oh yeah, like maybe I could see myself serving in ministry with this person, or maybe I could see myself raising kids with this person, or yeah, like, this person has some stuff that I really like and maybe we could have fun together. But you're not feeling anticipation at the idea of building those things with that person. That's a bad sign.
Yeah.
I
want to circle back to what you originally asked me.
Yeah.
You asked like, what is a good sign or signal that you should break up? And I mentioned one. Are there any more that you have in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind?
Yeah. So I think when we talk about the misalignment in values, we can talk about that and give the other party a complete benefit of the doubt, right? They may be living right for God, on the right track with their life, and the direction their life is taking just does not align with the direction that yours is, right? There's a different side where you start to identify areas of of a lack of integrity with a person. And when I say integrity, what I'm talking about is when a person's actions align with their words, right? Do they do the things that they say they're going to do? Do they follow the things that they say that they believe? So an example of this is if they, if they profess to be apostolic, to be living according to apostolic doctrine, but you find that they have an addictive behavior, or you find that they are not as committed to the truth as you thought originally, or that they're not faithful in their church attendance or their tithing, that's a lack of integrity, where their words, I am an apostolic, are not matching up with their behavior. They're not living an apostolic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
When you say they're not living an apostolic lifestyle, we're not saying don't give them the benefit of doubt and like try to have a conversation with them and ask them why.
Right.
We're not saying drop them like a hot cake when you find that out.
Right.
We're just saying like interrogate why those things didn't line up.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to know your boundaries too, though, right?
Oh, sure.
And if it's something where you've said in yourself, because of your own life, like, I cannot be with someone who does not want to, prioritize devotional life, right? And this person has expressed that they don't have interest in that. You don't have to waste your time trying to bring them around or figure it out or witness and minister to them and help them get their lives back on track. Like, also, side note, that is not your job to. Like, if you are with a person or talking to a person and you find that they have a struggle or a challenge that's holding them back in their walk or in their professional life, that's making them not a great match for you, it is not your responsibility to fix that part of their life.
Yeah.
Right.
That rolls back to the scarcity mindset thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, if I fix them, then I don't lose this investment.
Sure.
Sorry, I keep on going back to that. It's just, it's an easy and simple way of putting it.
Right. It doesn't work. Fixing people doesn't work. We are not capable of doing that in and of ourselves. They have to want to change. They have to reach out for help. And spoiler, their girlfriend or boyfriend usually isn't the right person to help them.
No.
You need someone who is able to support them from a place of authority, give them wise counsel, someone who is able to speak to their lives with more experience. So if you are with someone and you're constantly asking, like, or telling yourself, like, well, maybe this could work if they could just get this and this and this together, or maybe this could be fine if just this and this thing were different, it's not a good sign.
I can see why people would be attracted to that, though.
Attracted to what?
I don't want to say the fixing mindset, but the like helping along mindset, right?
Sure.
Because, like, for instance, my mom got married to my dad out of church, got saved a couple years after they've had their kids, and she chose to go to church, brought the kids. And my dad didn't necessarily go, but he didn't necessarily, like, he went to church like once a month, maybe. Every other, and the rest of the weekends he was fishing with his buddies. So it's one of those things, it's like, my mom's lifelong mission was obviously to see her husband saved.
Right.
Right. So we grew up in a household, me and a lot shorter than my sisters because they're a lot older than me, but of watching my mom having to choose to give my dad the benefit of the doubt because she was trying to, like, love him into the kingdom. Right. And so that is my example of what marriage is one trying harder to, like, rescue someone into the kingdom. And so I can see that being an example of like, oh, well, my mom and dad did it and they have a great marriage.
Right.
So maybe it's okay for me to do it in my dating relationship too. And I feel like it's a very different landscape when you're trying to find a spouse that is already saved and you're trying to be equally yoked. Yeah. Spiritually, values wise, and every other level. Like, I think that's a mindset that we might have to break. Yeah,
it's dangerous to compromise on somebody's alignment with truth.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we can talk about values that are different, but of of sort of equal merit, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, one of you might have a value to go pursue foreign missions, and somebody else might really value, home missions and want to put roots down there. And those aren't better or worse, right?
Sure.
But there is an uncompromising baseline of truth in both of
Yeah,
those.
exactly.
And when you are with someone who is not fully invested in the truth, regardless of how much you might get along with them and how many other things align in your life, your values are not the same. And that doesn't mean that that person isn't worthy of love. And yes, there have been couples that have had that kind of unequal relationship who have made it work, but at what cost?
Yeah.
And, I think if your mom were here, I think she would say the same thing. Like, that was an incredibly difficult emotional and spiritual.
I hate to put it this way, but it was a terrible experience for my mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she felt like she was constantly dragging her kids away from her,
right.
their parent, their father.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to go and take them fishing every weekend, which at the end of the day was not a bad thing.
Sure, it's wholesome.
Right? It wasn't like he was taking them off to go do drugs. He was just saying like, hey, I want to go fishing every weekend and drink, a 12-pack of beer. And my mom's like, no, we're going to church.
Yeah.
And so my dad was like, cool, I get the weekend alone. Sweet. I'm going to go drink 12-pack of beer by myself.
Yeah. No, but I think that at the end of the day, the takeaway is like, there are people in church who have spouses who are not in church who, by the grace of God, have maintained their faithfulness.
Absolutely.
You should never voluntarily put yourself in that position.
No, absolutely not.
You should not choose to compromise that aspect of yourself because of the chance that you might be able to keep your own spiritual life afloat. It's just a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, think about it from, if you are a person who wants to raise a family with someone, what kind of home do you want your kids to grow up in?
Yeah.
Right? Do you want your kids to be able to learn about the truth from both of their parents, right? And hear the truth reinforced from both of their parents? Of course, you don't want your kids to get confusing messages about what to believe.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, don't compromise when it comes to someone's integrity to their walk with the Lord. And that's not saying that this, every person you date has to be the most perfect Christian on earth. Everyone has mistakes, but you need to understand where somebody is going to be drawing you farther away from your walk versus helping you get closer to it.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about values misalignment, a lack of integrity that might indicate that someone should break up. I think every once in a while there's also just logistical things that make it challenging. And those are things like, someone needs to move for a job.
Yeah, I was going to say careers.
Right. Careers that they are committed to or that they're obligated to, ministries that they're obligated to and called to that require them to be in a place where you physically cannot be.
Yeah.
Do not sign up for long distance marriage. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Or, things like, income level requirements, or if a person, let's just say, isn't, a fully abled person, right? If they have disabilities that are going to require care and you are not a person who can provide that for them and they need that from their spouse, that might be a logistical thing that you guys just have to grapple with, right? And that's not that's not putting one person down in that scenario. It just might not be something that someone's able to provide.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there are 1,000 different reasons why, it might be a good idea to not continue a relationship. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about discernment.
Yeah, you have to be sensitive. And I think sometimes we talk ourselves out of these things because we think that the small benefits we get from staying in a relationship are worth more to us than the freedom we would get from being out of it. Yeah. And that's not true.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Sure.
So when I say discernment, I obviously mean spiritual discernment, but I feel like this would be a lot easier to make an important decision for yourself if you already know where you're going, or you have your values nailed down. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like it's one of those things that if you don't know who you are and you haven't really sat down and interrogated what you want and where you're going and where God wants you to go.
Yeah.
And obviously God's not going to like paint an Excel sheet of like in 6 months you're going to be here and in 10 months you're going to be here. But it's one of those things that's like really interrogate what your values are, because how are you going to know what's good for you and who to say no to if you don't know what is good for you and where you're going? And so it's easier for you to compromise on things that you feel are important to you, but you haven't really identified those things as super important to you, right? So it's easier for you to say, well, it's okay. I really did want to go to missions, but this person really wants to go this direction. I really like this person, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and stay with them. Yeah. And then you end up marrying them, and then you feel unfulfilled in your calling, and you feel like you're displaced. Like, so there's like a whole like stumbling block effect of like, or domino effect of you not realizing, because you didn't sit down and ask yourself, where do I need to be heading? What is important to me?
Yeah, I think maybe next week I don't know if we'll stay committed to this, but I'm putting it out there anyway. Maybe next week we should do a deep dive on how to identify your values.
Oh yeah.
Because we haven't really gotten into that, and we sort of sometimes use values and calling sort of interchangeably, and we don't mean for that to be.
Sure.
Really quick, the microwave version is your values answer the question, what do I want to be different about the world as a result of my being part of it, right? As a result of my life, what should happen in the world that would not have happened if I were not here?
Yeah.
Right. What unique things do I want to see brought forward in the world or furthered in the world as a result of my life? And most people have, half a dozen things that really speak to them about the change they want to see. And some of them are very personal to them, and some of them are more wide reaching and societal. And we can talk about sort of the layers of that and how to suss it out. But that's really the core question. It's answering the question, why do I think I'm here? Right. When I'm gone, what will I have left, behind me? What are the impacts that I want my existence to have in different facets of life? So we'll go in deeper on that.
Sure. And of course, callings can be intertwined in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just, they are different.
Right. Okay, so I feel like we're getting slightly off topic, and we'll have to circle back a little bit. But so we've talked about 3 reasons why you might need to break up, right? Let's talk about how.
Okay.
The mechanics of how. So you've realized that this person is not a good fit for you for whatever reason, right? The first thing I think everyone needs to do before you even go into a conversation with this person is to make the decision not to assign blame.
Yeah.
Right? It's very easy when you find someone who's not communicating in the way you need. Maybe they haven't been able to engage in the talking relationship in the way that you wanted.
Yeah.
To start to paint them with a really unflattering brush, right? Yeah. Like, oh, this person's just A, B, and C, or this person's expectations are just way too high, or this person's mean, or this person's rude. And really, it might not be any of those things, and it's not beneficial to anyone for you to fixate on the things that you wish were different about this person if they're not, right? If you've realized that, like, this isn't going to work out, don't bemoan the things that you wanted to have that weren't there about that person. So you have to go into the conversation with the mindset of, I'm not here to pass judgment on this person. I'm not here to tell them all the things that are wrong about them. I'm not here to make them feel guilt or shame about who they are. I'm here to free both of us from a connection that isn't serving us.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it as an act of care for myself and for them. I think that people think that breakup conversations have to all be like the movies, with like door slamming and rings being thrown in people's face and like, I never want to see you again, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't have to be dramatic for it to be effective.
Do you remember when you broke up with me?
Yes, because you bring it up every single time we record.
I'm trying I'm trying to bring it to a point. I'm just saying, like, it can be done amicably.
Yeah.
And it can be done with respect.
Yeah.
And hopefully both of you are in the mindset of giving the other person the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Even when they're saying stuff that hurts.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, forget the emotions of this interaction you've had with them. This is your brother and sister in Christ.
Yeah.
And
the fruits still apply to breakup.
Yeah, 100%. Like, just like we know we do marriage differently than the world. We do dating differently than the world. This is part of it. Like, when you're ending this with someone, you're doing it with grace and without wrath, ideally, right? You're coming to them to say, look, I don't think that we're right for each other. And I care about you and want you to have the chance to be with someone who is right for you.
Yeah.
So make sure that your motivations are pure going into the conversation, not vindictive.
Can you give an example of what you mean by don't make it about them? Like,
yeah,
because I can see that being like, well, that's easy to say, Megan. Easier said than done. Because usually there's a reason why you're wanting to break up with this person. So it's easy to fixate on the things of the reasons why.
Right.
How can you say it well and with respect, but not be pointing a finger the whole time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's take the example. Let's say we have a couple who have been just in their talking phase. And let's say that the young woman in this, or the woman in this interaction, feels like the guy has not been demonstrating enough interest in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
And that might manifest in things like just not communicating at the frequency that she expects, even after they've talked about it. Not really initiating questions for her, not demonstrating a curiosity about her.
And this is a talking relationship.
Yeah, this is an early relationship. And it might just feel like it's getting very, very stale, right?
Yeah.
A bad way to do this would be to say, hey, you're not talking enough for me, right? You're not asking me questions. You're not, it seems like, you don't even like me or want to get to know me. Like, you just act like I don't even exist. And I really just, you make me feel like you don't care about me, and I'm angry about all that, right? All of that was about my perception of this person's actions.
Yeah.
What I assume is going on in their head. I am assuming that he doesn't care. I'm assuming that he feels this way. I'm assuming that, his intention has been to not give me what I've been asking for.
Yeah.
Right. And that might not be the case. So instead, what I would recommend is doing something like coming to them and say, hey, I think it's time for us to move on. Spoiler, start with what the conversation is about. Don't beat around the bush.
Yeah, don't
be
direct.
Don't make it subtle.
Oops.
I think it's time for us to move on. I'm not getting the depth of connection that I need, and I don't think that you are either. And I think that you're a really great person. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I want to make sure that you have what you need in a relationship, and I also need to make sure that I have what I need. And right now, our communication styles aren't giving me that. And I don't think it's something that, you necessarily need to change. It might work for someone else, but it doesn't work for me. I need more consistent communication. I need to not be the person driving, and I need to give myself the opportunity to go find someone that's easier for, who are, a relationship where that's more comfortable. In that conversation, and I don't know if I framed that perfectly, but in that conversation, it's about me and what I need, right? It's not me passing judgment on them and their actions. It's me saying, what I'm looking for in a relationship is this, and I'm not finding it here. And I don't think you're finding what you need either, right? So it's not a conversation about assumptions. It's about needs that are and are not being met.
Yeah.
And it's very calm. It's very direct. It's very kind. We're not aiming for, you're not giving me what I need. We're aiming for, I don't think that I'm going to find what I'm looking for here. And I deserve the chance to go get that, and so do you.
Yeah.
Right?
from both of those examples,
Yeah.
from a guy's perspective, the first one, I can see myself, if I were on the receiving end of that.
Mm-hmm. Like the abrasive one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have felt like I did something wrong.
Like there was something wrong with you.
Yeah, that there was something wrong with me and that I was not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And just by the phrasing of the words, right?
Right.
It felt like, oh, I missed the signals.
Right.
I didn't do well. It's kind of like,
you're insufficient.
yeah, I am not good enough for you and will never be. Immediately, that makes me think of, well, one, it really spikes insecurity.
Yeah.
Really, especially for me with the way I think, I would start overthinking everything.
Right.
And
Being
even
defensive.
even if we did continue the relationship further past that point, because like you came back or something happened or I begged you and you just said, oh, sure, whatever, we'll stay. I would then be focusing on the wrong things.
Right.
I would be focusing on every single detail of what you said instead of the core as to why you wanted those things.
Right.
And that was to be, feel noticed and wanted to be pursued. And, well, pursued isn't the right word, but wanted to feel like you were an equal in the relationship and didn't have to drive and yada, yada, yada. The second one, I felt like you were saying, hey, I'm not trying to change who you are.
Right. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah. Like, I just don't think that and like, I like how you said it, our communication styles are just not going to work, basically. Right. And it's not saying, hey, I think your communication style is broken.
Yeah.
It's saying that I need a different type of communication.
Right.
And
there's
so
a big difference between there's something wrong with you and you and I don't fit together.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And I think I would have received that one. Obviously, I'd still would be sad, devastated, but it would be a very different point of view on how I would receive it. And I feel like the second one would have hit the nail on the head. Like, I would have hit the right points and communicated the right the right outcome.
Yeah. And you said I'm going to touch on something you said. You used the word devastated, and which I think was probably how you felt when we broke up, because we'd been dating for like 6 months at the time or something like that.
8.
Thank you. I think it's important for people to not assume that the person on the receiving end of this is going to be devastated.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're right where you are.
Sure.
And they recognize too, like, something about this just isn't working. It's not feeling right. There's not, we're not meeting each other at the right place. Right. Yeah. You bringing this to them in a kind way might be really relieving to them. And it might give them the chance to say, I totally agree with you. I feel like I'm not really matching your communication, or I'm sort of not saying the things that you're expecting me to say, and vice versa. I feel like I'm not really getting this out of the relationship. It creates much more of an opportunity for exchange.
Yeah.
So don't work it up in your mind that this person's going to be crushed, right? First of all, we're all adults. Like, we're in this dating experience to meet people and make connections. Some of those are not going to work out, and we have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
So
I just think that, again, challenge your intentions, challenge your motivation, and make sure it's not out of like being malicious.
Right. Yeah. If you're coming to the conversation with the right intentions, you're seeing that person as your brother or sister in Christ and delivering the message in a way that's about the lack of fit versus someone's fitness for a relationship. I think you're in a good place.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Sorry. One last little bit nugget on this. Something that I was taught in certain situations when I'm either having to give hard feedback. I've also used this when I go to pray for someone as well.
Yeah.
And I feel led to tell them something. I always pray right before I pray for that person or go and give that feedback. Lord, purify my motives.
Yeah.
And I make sure that I say, God, I want you to speak through me. I do not want my flesh speaking out of this. You get the glory, not me.
Yeah.
And so, because I it's very easy as a human to be used as a vessel, right? And be excited about it and feel like I've got the power. It's not that. It's God using you as a vessel. It's you giving feedback to someone and saying, Lord, purify my motives.
Yeah.
Like, you want to make sure you're giving it with the right heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about framing this conversation too. So, again, to recap, you're going to put yourself in that mindset of, I'm doing this as an act of care. I'm doing this to serve my brother or sister. I'm not doing this with any kind of malicious or vindictive intent, right? You're going to have the conversation about the fit in the relationship, not about the other person. We're going to not make it about what's right or wrong about them, but what's not working for you in the interaction, right? I think framing of the conversation is also important. So when possible, have the conversation in person.
Yeah.
If you are long distance, don't wait 4 months until you're going to see them to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard stories of people like, yeah, I flew out to meet them for the first time and they broke up with me driving away from the airport. And I'm like, well, that's just a waste of money and time.
Yeah.
Like, if you are in a long distance talking relationship and you know that person's not it, suggest a FaceTime call, right?
Yeah.
Or just a phone call if that's what works for you. It's much better for them to hear your voice because we communicate a lot with our tone of voice, and that's what will really deliver that warmth.
Yeah.
So don't do it over written text or like text, email, Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Don't do it in written form. Do it with your voice, in a way that they can respond to. So also don't send a voice memo, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be a conversation. It's not a, Dear John letter, right? Dear Jane, whoever. So have the conversation in person when you can, or at least in a way that they can hear your voice and have a conversation back with you. And then don't beat around the bush in the conversation. We touched on this a little bit, but if you know before you start talking to them that this is going to be a breakup conversation, start the conversation with, hey, I have to have a difficult conversation with you. It's not rude. It's not mean. You don't have to say it in a way that's dramatic or like, hey, I need you to sit down. I have some bad news, right? Like, it doesn't have to be.
I could totally see myself doing that to you. If I were the one that broke up with you, I'd be like, hey, this is a hard conversation. Make sure you're sitting down, please.
Yeah, no, that's how you tell someone you have a terminal disease. Instead, like, this is a feedback conversation. It's okay to say, I have something difficult that I want to talk to you about. This might be a little bit uncomfortable, but I think it's important, right? It doesn't have to be dramatic for it to be direct. And you can say, again, start off with, I don't think this relationship is going to work, or I think it's time for us to move on and date other people. Don't save that for the end.
Yeah.
Don't do the thing. People do this all the time where they start off by saying, you're so great and you're so beautiful and I just love being around you and I so enjoy talking to you and you're so talented and we have so many great things going for us. But like, don't do that. Don't send people through a roller coaster, right? If you need to write this out so you can remember what you need to tell them, have notes with you when you talk to them, but say, I need to have a difficult conversation with you. I think it's time that we move on from this relationship. This connection has been really great and I've enjoyed getting to know you, but this is not going to work for me in the long term. I really need more consistent communication, and I think a different kind of communication than is comfortable for you. And I want to find a relationship where I can have that. And I want you to find a relationship that really fits your needs. And I just don't think we're going to find it here. And I have so much respect for you and so much appreciation that you would take the time to get to know me. But I think that we should stop here and see other people. Like, clear enough?
Yeah.
Leave
room for letting them ask questions too.
Yeah.
Like, don't fill the whole space and say, all right, bye.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you hang up right then. But I think frame it in that direct way.
Yeah.
And invite, how do you feel about that? Like, what do you think? You might get some disappointment. You might get some frustration. You might get relief from them. It could run the gamut. But you have to be willing to just say, however they feel, I'm going to be able to accept that and handle it with grace.
Yeah. Also remember
Mm-hmm.
that how they react is not your responsibility.
That's good. Talk about that.
Because just because they choose to act immaturely, or if they
In the
do,
rare occasion that someone does, right?
maybe not so rare.
I want to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if they choose to act a way that is not mature, or they start saying stuff that's hurtful,
Mm-hmm.
you are making a choice to be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
They are making a choice to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
And don't and just keep on.
Yeah.
Hold your integrity.
You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have
No.
to make justifications. If someone does start blowing up, you can say, you know what? I can see that this conversation isn't really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
God bless you. Have a great day. Right.
Yeah.
And just hang up and block numbers if you have to. Like,
Yeah.
the last part, the thing that I want to talk about, and this is sort of an extreme version of it, is setting boundaries after you talk to someone. Right. So people love to do this thing where you break up and they're like, but we can still be friends.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Right. Let's still be friends. Okay. If you've been getting to know someone for 3 months, 6 months,
8 months.
year, right? And have been envisioning a romantic life with them, you are not going to be able just to slip into a comfortable friendship.
Absolutely not.
Right. If you were friends before this, if if this was a person that you knew for a long time and were friends with before you guys started trying to make this a romantic connection.
Or like you've been in the same church for a long time, you're going to maintain being in the same church.
Right. I regret to inform you that you cannot just reverse your way back into a friendship.
Yeah.
It is not going to be the same. That doesn't mean that you can't have a great collegial relationship with someone, but you will not be the same kind of friends after this. You've crossed into different territory, and you are going to have to reshape a connection to them on the other side. I think that for most people, though, that's the rare occasion that you've got someone that they're close to, that they, are going to be seeing constantly.
I mean, I think it's healthy to do regardless.
Healthy to do what?
Sorry. I think it's healthy to set that boundary for at least a while. I'm not saying you put a time limit on it in that conversation.
Right.
Even though whenever you broke up with me when we were dating, it was an amicable breakup. Like it was good. And at the end of it, I literally said I was proud of you. Yeah. Like it was a good conversation, in the strictest of sense. I still said at the end of that conversation, hey, if we are doing this, I cannot maintain contact with you.
Yeah. So when I say set a boundary, what I'm actually saying is that create a boundary with your communication with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I still cared about you and wanted to be with you.
Right. And
so what I'm saying is, and I knew that if we were to continue talking, I would not have space to grieve and move on.
Right. And if you're in a lightweight talking relationship, you might not have that much emotional investment in it yet. Or you might, it just depends. People move at different paces, right? But saying, I think that we need some time, let's deal with the two scenarios. Let's say hypothetically you're in a relationship with someone that you do go to church with, or that you see on a frequent basis, or that you might need to interact with frequently. In that scenario, I think your boundaries look something like, I'm not going to text or call you for a while. We'll continue to work together at church, and I'm not planning to avoid you in the sanctuary. I'm not planning to, try to park on the opposite side of the church so we never run into each other. But I'm not planning to, spend much time around you in the near future. We just need some space to heal. So that might be sort of the set of boundaries you create there. And, if you're in a relationship where there's more distance, you don't have to see this person very frequently. I think you can say, I'm not planning to text or call you in the future. I'm happy to continue to be friends on Facebook or follow you on Instagram. But I'm not planning to reach out to you via social media. I'd like us just to kind of move on and see what other connections we can make. You have all of my best wishes, right? You don't have to say like, I'll be blocking you on every single social platform I can find, right?
Yeah. I think it depends on the severity of the breakup and what the reasons for.
Right. If you feel unsafe, or if you feel like there's potential that your boundaries are going to be trespassed,
yeah,
take precautions for your safety. But I think that's rare, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And if the person disagrees, you can say, I understand, but those are my boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's how I need to handle this for myself. So I respect your desire to want to stay in contact. I can't do that. And you don't have to justify it anymore.
Yep.
Like, you can just say, that's not how it's going to work for me, and move on. So once you've identified that this person's not a good fit for you, frame the conversation for yourself in a way that's generous to them, that's kind, that's about the fit in the relationship for both of you, not about them and their characteristics specifically. Come to them and have a very direct, upfront conversation in person, or at least in a mechanism that they can hear your voice. Say upfront that you're planning to have a hard conversation with them. Explain the fact that you feel like there's not the right alignment there, or that this isn't a good fit, and that you want them to have a great relationship as much as you want that for yourself. And then set a boundary and hang up or walk away.
And don't beat around the bush about any of it.
Yeah. Be as direct as you can be. After it's done, don't post drama on social media.
Mm-mm.
Don't talk about them to all the people in your life, right?
Yeah.
They deserve the chance to go find someone great.
Yeah. And again, and I know I say this in a lot of podcasts, the fruits of the Spirit apply in more areas than just spirituality.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Christians, a lot of apostolics just apply that to their church walk.
Right.
And I feel like that if we are living out our life trying to be as close to Christ-like as possible, that is in every area of our life, including after breakups.
Right.
So apply the fruits.
Yeah. Don't create drama. There's no point in it. And just that person, both of you deserve the chance to go meet someone without being burdened by reputation from a past relationship.
Yeah.
Right. If you wouldn't want that person's opinion of you to be the opinion of the next person that you're interested in, then don't go spread stuff about them.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm saying that because I wish I could say that that's something that people left behind when they were teenagers, but I've heard about people doing it in their 30s and 40s in singles Facebook groups. Like, at some point we have to just grow up and be adults about this stuff.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
So give them their space, leave that there. And then if you were emotionally invested, if you did have, if you were starting to feel really deep feelings for this person before you figured out what was happening there, that there wasn't the right fit, you might need to take some time to grieve.
Allow that time to grieve too.
Yeah, it's still, whether that's grief over that particular person not being part of your life anymore, or like we talked about before, maybe you feel like you've given some really good time to this relationship and you're sad about that time being gone. Or you're sad about, maybe at first it seemed like the two of you had really strong ministerial alignment and you spent a bunch of time talking and planning things that you were going to go do together, and you're realizing now that that's not going to happen. You need to give yourself time to mourn that.
My mom my mom calls it a death of a dream.
Yeah.
You dreamed with that person.
Right. I know this sounds really weird, but I've had relationships in the past that ended that were really, really difficult for me to end. And I literally had like a funeral, like, because at that point, those were long-term relationships that had a lot of artifacts, letters and papers and cards and things that were like physical components of the relationship. And I remember specifically taking a bunch of stuff like to a park and looking through everything and crying and kind of letting myself feel what I was feeling, and then packing everything up and recycling it there. And that might sound kind of cruel, but it was giving me a clean break.
Yeah.
Right. Of I've allowed myself to feel all these feelings and really feel this grief and absorb everything that this relationship meant to me. And now I'm going to allow myself to completely put it behind me and move forward.
Yeah.
And so depending on how invested you were, something like that might be helpful. Pray about it, journal about it. I think writing things out is great. Talk to someone that you trust.
Yeah. You don't have to do it alone.
No, find a mentor, come talk to us. We know that those things are difficult. And for those of you that are maybe new to dating and you're having to take this step for the first time, it's very brave to make that step in service of your long-term relationship goals and in service of the other person's well-being too. It's difficult to do, but it's not complicated, and it's an act of care, both for you and for them. Okay. Anything else we need to cover about breakups? Tips, tricks, best practices? Don't ghost people.
Yeah.
We didn't say that. Please don't just stop talking to people and never explain why and then show up engaged 6 months later.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah. Give people, this is something, so I've had questions about this for Synchrony, right? If we will, as part of the Synchrony process, if we will introduce people to multiple people at the same time.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is always no.
Yeah.
Which this isn't to say that there's some kind of moral problem with you having like a lightweight talking thing happening with a couple of people that are not relationships. But I personally don't like that. I think that it's better for everyone and for you to make a connection with someone, focus your energies on understanding that connection. When you find maybe that that's not the right fit for you, stop and move on to someone else. And don't try to keep, a bunch of irons in the fire.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's necessarily as like a playing the field mindset as much as it is like a time saving.
I think people are scared that if they let that one opportunity slip through their fingers, what if that was the one?
Yeah.
And there's
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. It's a broken mindset from the get-go.
Yeah.
So don't ghost people. Give people a clear sense of, how you feel about the connection, even if it's very early on, right? Like maybe you met someone, they asked for your number, you've texted back and forth a little bit. You can tell that it's not really going to be something that you want to see move forward in the long term. Don't have one of those awkward, like every 6 months they say hi and you say hi and then you pass back a joke or two and then it's done. Like just say, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I don't really think that this communication is valuable to either of us. Like,
yeah.
Don't leave people in limbo.
It's freeing for you.
Yeah. And you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that, right?
Yeah.
Do unto others.
Yeah.
So don't ghost. What else?
Don't ghost. Just Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to have to make that into a post.
Like a t-shirt.
The only ghosting we do is Holy Ghost. Oh, okay. You're going to laugh about this one. Don't use God as an excuse.
Oh, yeah.
When God is not the reason. When I broke up with you, don't get skeptical about this.
I'm not skeptical.
You sound skeptical.
No, it's more of like a rubbing in your face.
Okay. When I broke up with Steven, I felt truly that the Lord had led me to that, because we talk about it in an early podcast. You can go back and listen to it. I didn't feel like there was a great reason for us. I hadn't identified a point of big misalignment in my mind. Like, I didn't have any doubts about your integrity. I didn't have any doubts about the logistics. I just had a deep uneasiness in my spirit.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation where I was basically saying, I feel like we need to break up. I feel led.
I know. And I believed you. I really did.
Yeah.
But there is the whole trope of like,
right.
Like you go to Bible college to get married. When you don't know how to break up with someone, you blame it on God.
Yeah. I've known people.
I was like, oh God, I said God's breaking up with.
Right. And don't use the line like, I just need to go focus on my relationship with God, when you definitely plan to just go focus on your relationship with someone else.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not dissing people for wanting.
But again, it's integrity. It's like an integrity.
It's integrity, right? It's just like, if the Lord is telling you this isn't right for you, it's perfectly fine to say, I don't really have peace in my spirit about this, and I just think this isn't going to work, right? But don't make it about like, I feel like I need to go spend more time in prayer and I'm going on the mission field and I don't want any distractions. And I just feel like the Lord is calling me to be fully his right now in this season and then be talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, you know, to be honest about your intentions. It comes off as more authentic. And ultimately everyone has a better experience.
Yep.
Okay. I think I'm done with my ranting.
You're never done. Yeah.
That's true. So before we wrap, I want to remind people that you can go to the link in the description right now and order your Synchpin.
Mm-hmm.
These are, it's free for the pen. We're asking folks to pay for shipping if you're going to have us ship you one. And you can register for that. We will box it up and send it off to you. We're a little backlogged on shipping because of just storm delays.
You know, 2 hurricanes in 3 weeks.
Pray for Florida. But we will get them to you as soon as we can. And so we're working through those right now. When you fill that form out, please provide your entire shipping address.
Yeah. And your first and last name, not like your email name.
Handle. Yeah.
First, last name, and full address, please.
Yeah. So check that out. Make sure that you order your pen if you don't have one. Again, these are meant to be just subtle signals of interest that any apostolic single can wear in public apostolic spaces to connect with people. We want everyone to have one. But if you can see us in person, we'll just hand you one.
That's right, for free.
And our next in-person event, hopefully, we'll confirm this later this week, is that we will be attending the ALJC National Youth Conference, which is happening over Thanksgiving in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
It'll be
celebrating my birthday.
Yeah, during your birthday.
That's right.
Your Thanksgiving baby.
That's right.
Maybe we'll do something fun for your birthday before we go to our booth.
Going to Tennessee is going to be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. And I am excited because we love the folks that are from the ALJC organization.
Yep.
And I'm excited to make more connections there.
Oh, yeah.
It's really important that we have apostolics in all of our different apostolic organizations talking about this and sharing, because that's ultimately how we make more connections.
Yep,
so.
That's right.
So anyway, if you're going to be at National Youth Conference in Nashville, Tennessee in November, you can come see us. Hopefully we'll have our booth set up there. We'll keep you up to date about how that goes. And we'll just give you a pin in person. And we'd love to meet you and talk to you. And I don't know, maybe we'll see if we can do like our cool little podcast setup. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do impromptu like podcast interviews. That was really cool for the hyphen event we did.
Yeah.
That's still our best episode.
Yeah, I know. That was really fun. So hopefully we'll be able to do some more of that and meet some of you and talk to you and get you guys on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Anything else?
No, we made it through the whole podcast without losing power.
Yay.
It flickered a couple times, but
Thank you,
we made
Jesus.
it. Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.
Would not want to be riding out a storm with anyone else.
That's right.
Okay.
Let's go eat some cinnamon rolls.
Hurricane snacks.
That's right.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.